How's it going, guys? In today's lesson we're going to be going over how we can create this app, and it's called iPet, and it's essentially just a virtual pet that you're going to be able to take care of on your iPhone directly. And as you can see here, we have the possibility to name it, and right now I've just named it Tommy as a default name, and Tommy's quite sad at the moment because we have not fed him and we've not gave him anything to drink for already about a couple days now. So let's go ahead and fix that immediately by tapping on the actions of feed. As you can see right here, now the hunger is satiated, and give it some water, and Tommy's going to be happy again. And right now Tommy's age is 250,000 seconds because I've created this several days back and it's still running. And you're going to notice also as time goes on, Tommy's going to get hungry and Tommy's going to get thirsty. So we're going to have to continuously feed and give water to Tommy so that Tommy remains happy. So let's go ahead and wait another 10 seconds. And you'll notice that Tommy is now getting hungry. And if we wait another 20 seconds, you'll now notice that Tommy is terribly sad and unhappy. So to fix that, all we have to do is go ahead and click on feed and give some water to Tommy again. And yeah, it's a very simple app. We're going to be using the MVVM architecture to make sure that everything's running smoothly and that the architecture is actually maintainable. So let's go ahead and get started immediately by opening a fresh project in Xcode. Now, the very first part of this project is going to be taking care of the project structure. So go ahead and click on your project folder and hold Option Command plus N to create a new group. And the first group we're going to have is for utils. Inside here, we're going to have all the helper functions. So just like that, we can type in Command plus N, and we're going to create a new Swift file that says helpers, and click on create. Then we should go ahead and create a few more folders. So Command Option plus N, and this one's going to be called ContentView. And inside ContentView, we can just drag the ContentView, and we need to create 3 more folders inside here. So the first one's going to be called ViewModel. And the second one is going to be called Model. And finally, the third one is going to be called Data. And they don't actually have to be inside each other, so you can drag those out and rearrange them just like that. Now, inside the ViewModel, we're going to go ahead and create a new file. Click on Next, and we're going to call this ContentView Model. Inside the model class, we'll go ahead and create another new file, and this one's going to be called Pet Model. And finally, inside the data folder, go ahead and hold Command plus N because we need to create a repository. This is where we will handle the data, save the data, and load the data. So pet repository, and click on create. And just for conventions, we're going to drag this all the way above content view, so that's always going to be there. This is the top level of the app. If you double tap on it, you'll notice that everything inside here is going to render into our application. So with everything being put into place, we can actually get started with the implementation. So the very first thing I want to do, which will get a very easy part of the application out of the way, is go to the helpers section. Inside helpers, we're going to create some helper functions that will just simplify our Swift code slightly. And the first one is going to be function calculate time since, and that's going to take a date of type date, and it's going to return an integer. Inside here, we're going to let the seconds equal the integer value of the negative of date.time interval since now. And this is just going to calculate the time since the date in seconds up until now. So if we start this function, let's say 60 seconds ago, it's going to say 60 seconds has passed, and so on. And we're going to return the seconds, so we can use that later. Next, we will go ahead and create an extension on View, and in here we'll have a function called centerH. And if you follow my tutorials, you'll notice that this is going to be a helper function that allows us to center any view horizontally just by adding it as a modifier. So it's going to hold an H stack, if I can spell that. And actually we need to import SwiftUI for this one. So import SwiftUI. Then we can go back down here and get started with creating a H stack, followed by a spacer, the self keyword, which is the view we will center, and one more spacer. So that's going to take care of the helper functions we need for this project to run smoothly. Next, it's very important we go to our pet model and actually try to model the data. So inside here, we're going to create a struct called pet, and it's going to conform to codable. And first we need a var of name, what you want the name to be, of type string, the var birthday, so we can keep track of the age, which is going to be the instance of this struct. So as soon as we create it, it's going to be the birthday. Var last meal will be the last time we fed it, which will be of type date. And var last drink will be the last time we gave it something to drink, also of type date. And then we can go ahead and type in var age, which will be a computed property, and that's going to be of type int. And inside here, we'll go ahead and type in let time since equal calculate time since the date of the birthday. And here we're going to return time since. So we're going to get the age in seconds. We're just going to use seconds as the age for our pet. Next, we need to create two more computed properties, and one's going to be based on the hunger and one's going to be based on the thirst. So here we're going to type in var hunger, which is going to return a string. And this is going to return what the pet feels when they're hungry. So it's going to say they're either satiated, getting hungry, or they're actually hungry. So let time since, just as we did earlier, be equal to calculate time since, and the date is going to be set to the last meal, the last time we updated the meal, so we can see how long it was since we fed our pet. And we need to create a string, which is just going to be empty, and we'll edit this later. We're just going to return the empty string. And actually for this purpose, we can go ahead and type in hungry, because we will use it for debugging before we add the functionality here. So inside here, just write add hungry functionality. Then more or less it's going to be exactly the same thing for the string. So go ahead and copy that, and you can just paste it under. We just need to change this to thirst. This is going to be thirst, last drink. What happened to last drink? And it's not happy because I added a space here for some reason. But make sure that's that, and change this to add thirst functionality. And we're actually going to change this to thirsty. Then right below the age, we can add one more computed property, and this is the happiness level, which is going to return a string. And the functionality is quite simple here. If the hunger is equal to hungry, or the thirst is equal to thirsty, then we're going to return unhappy. Otherwise, we're going to return happy. So that's going to take care of our basic model for our little pet. And as you can see, we have a name, a birthday, and the last time we fed and gave it something to drink. Of course, you're going to be able to add more to this as time goes on, but for now, we're just going to leave it at the bare bones, which is eating and drinking. And up next, we're just going to move this content view right below the content view, so it looks a bit less confusing. And we're going to go to our pet repository. Now, this class is going to take care of loading information and saving information. So here we're going to type in class pet repository, and we're going to be using user defaults for this. So it's quite simple, and we just need to create a private variable of pet key, which is going to be a constant, of course, and that can be anything you want. I'm just going to type in pet key in here, and we need to type in private var pet, which is going to be of type pet. Now, the very first thing we have to do inside here is create an initializer. And the initializer is going to check first if there's data. So if let data equal user defaults.standard.data for key pet key. And next we need to try to decode the data. So if let decoded equal try, otherwise return nil, JSON decoder dot decode pet.self from the data. And if that successfully works, we can go ahead and assign to the pet the decoded data. And we're going to print that pet data successfully retrieved. And we're going to return. There's nothing left to be done. We can finish this. Now, the program's not going to be happy with that, because if this actually fails, we're not going to have anything for the pet value. So down here, we need to add a default case. So we're just going to type in self.pet is going to equal a pet. And in here, we can add the name and the last meal and the last drink. So of course, you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it Tommy for now. the date is going to be set to the initial date of date, which is just as soon as this gets called, you'll get the very exact moment as the date, and another date for the last drink. So Tommy was very happy on his birthday because he wasn't hungry and he wasn't thirsty. Next, we need a function that's going to load the data. So we're going to call load data, and it's going to return a pet. And inside here, we just return self.pet. And that's the current pet that we've loaded. And below that, we need to go ahead and save the data. So save data, which is going to take a pet of type pet. And we need to do the exact opposite we did over here. So in save data, we're going to go ahead and say if let encoded data. So if this actually works, we can try it by calling JSON encoder dot encode, and we need to encode the pet. And we're going to call user defaults dot standard dot set, and we need to set the encoded for the pet key. And here I just wanted to add a log that says data saved at / interpolation date dot formatted, and inside here we'll type in date is omitted, and the time will be set to .standard. So we can tell when we actually saved, at what time we saved, and how often we're saving. And those are the only functions we need to write in the pet repository. One that loads the data, as you can see here, and one that saves the data. And every time we start our program, this initializer is going to be called. So it's going to load the data automatically for us the first time it started. Then after that, we're just going to have to reload it over and over to see the changes in the program. But up next, we should go to our ContentView model so we can take care of the functions we need to make our program work. So inside here, we should go ahead and first import SwiftUI, and it's going to be an extension on ContentView. We only want ContentView to have access to this. And the class is going to be called ViewModel, which will conform to the observable object protocol. And inside here, first we need to go ahead and type in @published pet or var pet of type pet, so we can listen to changes for that and publish them. And private var repository is going to equal a pet repository. Now, as an initializer, we can go ahead and type in init, and inside here we'll type in pet equals repository dot load data, so we can freshly load some data into the pet. Because even if this initializes the pet and gets the information, we still need to push it into our variable in the view model. And next, we need to go ahead and create a function called save data. And inside here, we'll type in object will change.send. Because what we're about to do is not going to affect the pet directly, which means the program's not going to know how to update the UI, and it's not even going to know that it should update the UI, because the data is being changed in an external place. So we need to tell the program that pet has changed and that we want you to know that it's about to change. So here we type in repository.saveData, and the pet is going to be set to the pet. Now we can go ahead and type in function feed, and pet.lastmeal will be set to the current time and date. And we need to save the data immediately after that to see the changes and to save the changes. And we'll do the same thing for the drink. Function give water is going to be set to pet.lastDrink equals date. And we're going to save the data. So just to recap on what we just did, we created a pet model which defines the pet. It shows that they have a name, that they have a birthday, that they can get hungry, and that they can drink something. It also calculates the age, and it's going to calculate the hunger level and the thirst. Then we went ahead and created a pet repository, which takes care of saving the data and loading the data. Just a place to make sure that Tommy is still going to be Tommy when we come back. We don't want a new pet to surprise us each time we come back to the app, so we created a repository to hold all that information. Now, the ContentView model is used for interacting with the UI, so we simplified it by creating the repository and instantiating it here so that we can create the functions that we're going to feed to the ContentView by itself. So it's just a simplified way of sending functions to our ContentView. Now, I'm going to go ahead and leave these assets in the description down below, but for you to get them, you're going to have to click on the link, go to my GitHub repository, and click on assets.xassets. And here we have one that's called happypet.imageset and sadpet.imageset. So of course you can also just copy the whole program, but if you want to get the files by themselves, click on Happy Pet and go ahead and click on happypet-1.png and download. So here we're just going to go ahead and save the image with the name happy_pet and do this for sad pet as well. So go back, click on sad pet 2 and download. And here we can right click, save image with name, and we're going to call it sad pet. And these are located in my downloads folder at the moment. But as soon as you have the assets, go to your assets.xassets and find your downloads folder, because inside here you want to drag those and place them inside. So now we have a happy pet and a sad pet. And of course you can draw these to be whatever you want. This is just my example for the program. But now we can go to the content view once again and finish this project. So if we resume the app, hopefully there should be no errors, because we do have an error apparently. And that is command with non-exit 0 code. So Xcode was just playing a little prank on me. Everything's running perfectly. Just try to rerun your program again. And if everything runs perfectly, it means we have no errors and we can continue with the content view and finish this application. So the very first thing we have to do inside the content view is go ahead and create a state object, which is going to be used for the view model. And it's going to be a private variable, if I can spell that, called VM of type ViewModel. And right below that, we need to go ahead and type in private let timer, which is going to be a timer.publish. And we're going to have these options over here. So we're going to publish it every 15 seconds. That's how often the pet is going to update. The lower this number is, the quicker you'll see the changes in your pet. And that's all it does. For the tolerance, we don't need that, so we can just remove that. We're going to leave it on the main thread, on main. And it's going to be in.common. Then the options can just be removed. So all we did here is create a timer that's going to consistently update our pet, so we can see the changes live on the screen as we interact with it. Now inside here, there's not really much to say. It's going to be quite straightforward. We're going to start with a form, and it's going to have a section that says pet. And inside here, we need to create a text field that says name your pet in case this is empty. And the text is going to be bound to vm.pet.name. So as you can see, we now have Tommy up here, and this might take some more space, so let's close the sidebar. Next, we should actually go ahead and insert the image of our pet. So inside here, we're going to type in vm.pet.happinesslevel, and this is going to determine whether we're showing the happy pet or the sad pet. So if the happiness level is set to happy, of course we want to return a happy pet. So we're going to call it happy_pet, and this should be named exactly the same as you named it in your assets catalog. As you can see, happy_pet and sad_pet. So we can close this again, and otherwise if it is false, we're going to go ahead and show the sad_pet. So right now you can see our pet taking over the screen, and we should change it to a resizable with scale to fit and a frame of 200 followed by 200 without the alignment. And we're going to center H so it stays directly in the center. Next, we should go ahead and create a text that says age, and we're going to use markdown language in here, so 4 asterisks followed by backslash, and inside here we can type in vm.pet.age, which is set to 0 initially, and the age is going to be determined in 2 seconds, but you can change that into years, months, or some imaginary age of your choice. Then we're going to have a text with status, and that's going to be set to backslash vm.pet.happinesslevel, which is currently set to unhappy. And as you can see with Markdown, we save a lot of time, and it actually makes it quite nice. We don't have to call .bold on all of the text. We can just add Markdown directly to our text to style it. And I guess we can copy and paste these ones because it's more or less the same. Inside here we have hunger and thirst, and here we have VM pet hunger and VM pet thirst. So here they are hungry and here they are thirsty. Under this section, we're going to have another section which we'll call our actions. And first we're going to have a button that says feed, so action vm.feed, and a button which will allow us to give water to our pet. So give water, action vm.giveWater. So I just want you to notice how clean we've kept our UI by creating a view model. All we have to do is insert it inside here, and everything is being put into place without us having to actually create functions inside here. The only exception is this timer over here, which is closely related to the content view because this is the only place it's going to appear in, and that's the only place I want to see it in. But on the form, we can go ahead and type in onReceive, which is going to be attached to the timer. So onReceive timer, we have to delete this and create a closure that says underscore in, because we don't care about the value that's being returned, but we care that every 15 seconds we can save the data. So now we can actually go ahead and run our application and test out how it's working at the moment. So as soon as we run Tommy, they're going to start unhappy and hungry and thirsty. And if we feed Tommy, it's going to say that we saved the data down here. And if we give water to Tommy, it's going to say that we gave water to Tommy. But as you can see, it's not changing from hungry or thirsty because we've hard-coded those values in. It's going to stay at hungry and thirsty all the time, because we still need to change that in our data model. But what's good to know is that each 15 seconds, Tommy's getting older, and we can even change the name to something such as James if we want. So now our new pet James is going to be taken care of, and every 15 seconds, we're going to see some updates over here, such as now the next time we'll see the time is at 45 seconds. Or actually, there's a good reason why we're not seeing this update automatically, and that's because we did not even start the timer. So here we need to go ahead and type in autoconnect so that we can start the timer. Now, if we go ahead and rerun our application, we're going to notice that every 15 seconds, we're going to see an update in the UI, and James is going to feel a bit older. So as you can see, it updated automatically to 98. And it says down here that we've successfully retrieved the data when we reopen the app, and that every 15 seconds we're going to get this log that it's saving. And we're also going to get that log when we feed James. So that's just good for debugging to make sure that the application's actually working. Now, of course, let's finish this off by fixing our model. So go ahead and click on your pet model, and we need to add the functionality for hunger and for thirst. So for this, we're going to create a switch statement, and it's going to be taking time since as the value. And the first case is going to be what happens if it's from 0 to less than 30 seconds. Then we're just going to return the string satiated, and you can return whatever you want in these cases. And the second case is going to be 30 to less than 60. And the string that's going to be returned is getting hungry. So after 30 seconds, we're going to get that. We're going to know that our pet is slowly getting hungry. In a real application, you might want that to be 5 minutes, you might want that to be 10 minutes, that's up to you. And everything beyond 60 seconds is going to return a string which is going to be set to hungry. And these are supposed to be lowercase strings because what we're actually trying to do is change this variable over here. And initially, I like to have this set to empty because it's always going to be edited. And we're also going to provide a default clause in case anything goes wrong, and the string is going to be set to IDK because I personally don't know what reasons there would be for this not being triggered, so it's just good to have this just in case something happens. And we need to do the exact same thing for the thirst, and I'm going to go ahead and copy what I had earlier, which is exactly this block over here. So go ahead and do that, paste it in, and the only things you have to change from the previous block is getting thirsty and thirsty. The rest is going to be exactly the same, but we can also take away this part. And finally, we can rerun the application and see the live changes. So right now we have James, who's been unhappy for already about 4 minutes. And let's go ahead and change that by feeding James. So now James is satiated, but he's also thirsty. So let's go ahead and give some water, and James is going to be happy once again because the condition for James being happy has been met. He has water, he has food, and he's a happy pet. But that's actually all I wanted to cover in today's lesson. We went over how we can use MVVM to create a wonderful iPet app. And as you can see, James is still happy. Even though he's getting hungry and thirsty, he's still happy for the moment. And everything's updating, as I mentioned earlier. So with that being said, Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.